routine for children. Establishing regular bedtime routines for children can make for very pleasant children. Can make for very pleasant children, happy families, as well as successful outcomes as they become older and transition into school. Adults and children alike all need adequate rest and need routines. How many of you all had a bedtime routine as a child? Do your children currently have bedtime routines? Why are bedtime routines important? I'm going to talk with you all a little bit about bedtime routines today. I'm going to talk about a young man that currently does not have a bedtime routine by the name of Nyland. He's 3 years old. I'd like to share a little bit with you about my background with dealing with children. I have 5 children of my own. I've done daycare in my home as well as worked with children in foster care for approximately 10 to 12 years, as well as I worked for a transportation company, and I deal with children daily on the school bus. Children that do not receive adequate rest typically are unhappy. They have behaviors, especially in the evening. They're frequently very irritable, and they typically do not get adequate rest. Nyland, in particular, is 3 years old. He typically has a lot of tantrums. He typically is very irritable. Most often, he doesn't share very well with individuals. He also has a hard time, most of the time, just getting up in the morning. His day typically starts about 5:30 and it ends about 10:30. His mom has a hard time getting him to bed as well as night. She also works with children for a living, and because of his irritability typically, or his hard time getting up, she also has a hard time in the morning, and causes her to be pretty moody with her students as the morning progresses. According to a study done by Mendel, Teskowski, Wingland, and Coates in the article of 90 bedtime routines, sleep-deprived children typically exhibit behavior. Children 0 to 6 months need 16 to 20 hours per week. Children 6 to 12 months need 14 to 15 hours. Children 1 to 3 need 10 to 12 hours. Children 11 to 12 tend to need 10 hours, and children 13 and older tend to need about 9 hours worth of sleep. They also did another study, and in that other study that they did, they took groups of toddlers, and they separated them into 2 groups. The first group, they changed none of their routines. Whatever they typically did going to bed, they left it the same. With the second group, for the first week, they let them do whatever it was that they typically do, and then during the second week, they changed it and gave them a controlled type of bedtime routine. What they found is that the kids who kept the same routine, those parents reported their kids being irritable, waking up in the middle of the night, throwing a lot of tantrums, and just not being a happy family type life. The ones where they changed and they were in the controlled environment, those individuals, they saw the behaviors improve significantly from the first week to the second week to the third week, being that they were a lot more happy, they were not as irritable, and they also were a lot more pleasant to be around, and they didn't wake up as frequent during the night. Tell you a little bit about my children. My oldest is 19. For the most part, he's a very good young man. Overall, his bedtime routine, he's been on a routine since he was 6 weeks old. And to this day, typically, if he's at home and nothing's going on the average, by 8:30, 9 o'clock, you'll find him asleep on the couch. His body's already shut down because of that routine that's been instilled in him. My 2-year-old is on a very good routine. My daughter, that's 12, she is an AB student in middle school and has a very good routine. And my daughter that is 14, she was actually adopted, and when she first came to me, she didn't have any bedtime routines, and so we worked on establishing that. And for the first 2 years, it was very difficult. And so she had a lot of problems in daycare and different things like that for the first 2 years of life living with me. Once she had been there for some time, then it ended up that she is now on a very good routine. She's an AB student, and typically on most nights she goes to bed about 8 o'clock as well. talk a little bit about Dorian, my little nephew. And he is a 4-year-old, and kind of I'm going to let his mom actually come and talk about him. But one of the things that I want to tell you is that when Dorian was spending the night with me for a week at a time when his mom would go out of town, I would get him on our routine because that's just what we did in our household. And he would come in, and he would fall right into that routine. And his mom would always say, "No, what do you mean he sleep at 8 o'clock? He don't do that at home." And I'm like, "Well, it's the routine around here, and he falls into a routine when he's here." But I'm going to have her come for a few minutes, for just a moment, and tell you a little bit about what Dorian is currently doing and how he's benefiting from that.
I'm Dorian's mother, Michelle. I just want to talk to you all a little bit about when Dorian wasn't on a routine. He was very irritable. He would cry a lot. He didn't go to bed at a decent hour. He would go to bed maybe 11, 12 o'clock, which caused me to be stressed, overwhelmed, and very sleepy. Since he has been on a routine, since he's been in preschool, he's 4 now. He's very productive in his classroom. He's actually the school helper. He goes to bed at a decent hour, which is about between 8 or 8:30. He runs his own bath water, and he actually gets into bed and gets ready for bed at a decent hour. That's for him. So I want to let you all know that having a routine is a good thing because you also get to have time for yourself, which gave me more time for myself, and I was able to have more time for myself with maybe TV shows that I was missing, homework that I may need to catch up on. So I do believe that having a routine works for children because it works for my son.
Thank you. Without regular bedtime routines, children tend to have a troubled day. They also tend to don't have adequate rest, and so because they don't have adequate rest, they tend to be very irritable throughout the day. A bedtime routine is very important for a number of reasons, and one of the biggest reasons is because it makes them become successful in the long run and in the long term. And so the long-term benefits of bedtime routines is, as you can see, this is my 6-year-old who is graduating kindergarten. He was an honor roll student all year. He got some other awards for having good behavior, read, write, run, marathon as well. And so these are the benefits of having bedtime routines. Thank you.